Good afternoon. Um, First video in a wee while. I have moved into a new flat, my own flat, which is nice. My own as in renting alone. I haven't bought. Um, it's nice. It's a good situation to be in now. I'm just removing the labels from the purchase in question. The prices and the stickers, they kind of bring everything back down to earth a bit more than I like. Haven't, well, with one exception, I haven't really bought any games for a little while. Partly been watching my spending, as I've got a little bit less work in the first few months of next year, but also just I suppose there hasn't been an awful lot turning up that has really caught my eye. There was one exception a few weeks ago. I bought Croc 2 for the PlayStation. I'm not really a big fan of Croc 1, but Croc 2 I played when it came out, and I really liked, actually. I played it a lot. There was there's something really weird about it. I'll explore that when I do get it again and talk about it in this video if and when that happens. But I asked for it. It was a C, actually, of course. I asked for it, went over to the cabinet, pointed it out, and the woman in the shop took it over to the counter, and I said, "Oh, I just remembered. Can I just have a wee look inside at the condition just to double check?" It looked fine from the outside. And she opened it up and said, "Yeah, oh, there's no instructions with it. Is that okay?" And I kind of was slithering. I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's fine." I was kind of saying to myself, "Oh, this shouldn't be important to you." But I kind of knew it was a bit of it was a tiny bit. It kind of bothered me a little bit. And when I picked it up, I did buy it. I picked it up, and especially when I had it at home, it felt so light. It felt so empty, and this kind of clued me in into realizing that I don't really. When I felt that its lightness, its emptiness, I thought, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel familiar. And as I confirmed when I went home and looked, almost none of my other PlayStation games are without instructions. So that kind of made the decision for me that I'm not. It felt unusual. It felt like it was lacking something which I am used to. They didn't really feel right to hold, even to look at and to have with that knowledge. There was one exception to that, which was Spyro 2, which I bought ages ago, but in Huddersfield, actually. I was there for a music festival and visited. Is that right? Yeah. That's when I bought it, and visited CX there with my pal, following a kind of. We nearly took a drive to a nearby town to go look at what seemed like a good kind of used retro games place, but we didn't really have time before I had to get my train and things like that, and he had work, so we didn't do that. So we settled for just going to the CEX, and that was before I even started like collecting. I think that kind of kicked it off for me. I bought a couple games. Anyway, so I bought Spyro 2 at that time, and I traded that in at the same time as Croc 2 because easily come by again, so what's the big deal? Anyway, yes, so that also had no instruction manual. That's the only thing I bought since my last video a while ago. Was that Pokemon Fire Red? Something like that. Yeah, nothing's come up. This is what I bought today. Animal Crossing for the DS. I've seen it around quite a bit for various amounts, and I've been really wanting to buy something the last few times I've gone into CEX, particularly on days off after working late, and really been kind of determined to buy something, but really nothing has been there that fit the bill. And I wasn't super determined today or anything like that, but I kind of have looked out for this at a reasonable price, and I've seen it fluctuate from like 20, £25, and today it was like £12. I'll say the price. So I mean, part of the fun of this for me, I realise, is kind of the gamble on getting things at a certain price, because they do fluctuate an awful lot. Games like this that are like desirable but not uncommon. Like this is a very pretty much a common game. There's no scarcity, uh, but um, but people will, it's a popular game. It's a desired game, so it's a bit pricier. But that kind of goes up and down a lot, I think. I talked about that with Mario Kart, which was £35, and I kind of waited and watched it come down. It's £25 at the moment, and I think I think it might come down a touch more. I think when it comes down again, I'll buy it. But anyway, this, I think £12 is about as low as it will realistically go, and I knew I wanted it in my collection, so which for DS is really, really slim. Not least of all, a thing I talked about a while ago when the DS was around. I lost most of my DS games on a bus in high school, coming back from a trip to the French Alps. That sounds really posh. It was the only kind of trip of that kind that I made in high school. Whenever other people talk about these sorts of trips that they made in school, I always do think that sounds awfully privileged. That sounds awfully nice, and I forget that I went on such a trip. Anyway, yeah, I left. They were all in this like carry case, and I left on a lot of them on the bus. And it was on that trip that I kind of cracked this game, in terms of really making money on it kind of quickly. And again, it was the whole turnip sale thing. You buy turnips, I think, on a certain day of the week, and then you grow them. You have to water them. You plant them. You have to water them every day or something like that. And then if you do that well, on the same day next week, you can sell them for like a lot of money. And that's really the way of making money quickly in the game. At least maybe there's maybe better ways, but that's kind of the ordinary way of making money quickly. And I kind of only got the hang of that, of doing that, and it was actually throughout that trip I was obviously playing this quite a lot, and then I lost it and kind of lost all my progress. I did buy the game again, but I could never get quite back into the swing of it. I think the momentum had just worn off, and yeah, it's one of these games you have to really be in the habit of playing, which really doesn't appeal to me. Generally speaking, the idea of having to put the hours in with a game is not, it's kind of, it seems a bit bizarre, rather than, put the hours into something, I don't know, don't want to hate on gaming, obviously, but something that seems more obviously worthwhile and has a kind of a return on value. I don't mean money there, just, practice a skill. This is kind of just, well, if it's enjoyable, that's obviously valid. And I think I will play this. It could even become a bit of a healthy routine in a way. I've imagined myself playing it when I wake up for like half an hour maximum. And that being almost a way of like, okay, alarm goes off, DS, 15 minutes to half an hour, and get out of bed. I'm imagining it as like actually a motivator to wake me up and then get out of bed, which is something that I'm not always great at. I like early mornings, but I'm not really good at getting myself into that routine. Anyway, So I will play it, and we'll see how able I am to keep a habit with it that is not that is both kind of consistent and works with the way you're supposed to play the game and doesn't rule my life, because I mean that will not happen is the thing. I'm pretty sure. I'm just so out of the habit of getting addicted to games that won't happen. So I might just, the likelihood is that I just hardly play it at all, which is a category it wouldn't be alone in terms of these games I've bought. But this one, I don't know, it seems to carry the expectation of playing it more so than all the other things I buy. Yeah, this was the first Animal Crossing, I believe, available in PAL regions. The GameCube one came out in the States, and quite a few people played it with like a freeloader. Freeloader, you called that? Yeah, it was kind of a region unlocker type thing for the GameCube. And obviously it came out in Japan on the N64. Now, I also played Animal Crossing. It was, I think, called Let's Go to the City in PAL regions. It was called City Folk in the US or something like that. I played that on the Wii, and I was initially quite surprised, and then kind of realised, oh, I should have known this was the case, because the same was true with this with relation to the GameCube and N64 game. It was pretty much the exact same game, the exact same collectibles, the exact same format, with a few adaptations, which actually seemed to me to be totally unnecessary. And based on the little I know about the GameCube and N64 original, Wild World adds a lot less that feels superfluous. City Folk, the kind of the city aspect of it that you could go. It just seemed like a kind of an added-on opportunity to do the stuff you were already doing, but like there was kind of another hoop to jump through for it. Maybe there was other stuff you could buy, but it didn't make it more interesting intrinsically. And I know that there's been a 3DS one. Is there one on the Switch already? Yeah, it's been said before, but obviously this kind of game works really well on handhelds. It's kind of a precursor, I suppose, to the sort of mobile collecty, clicky games, which I've never really played, but I'd like to think it has more heart than that. I mean, yeah, a little bit more substantial. But so I wouldn't really see myself. I don't see myself having any interest in playing or even maybe collecting the Wii game again, or playing really any subsequent Animal Crossing games, because this is the one I have a connection to, and they're all so similar that would be the thing that would distinguish one out of the others. Having an experience with it, having a memory of it. The exception to that would be the GameCube game, and even more so perhaps the N64 game, because there's a kind of there's a really mysterious allure to them, having not played them and it having been such an unusual game when it first came out. There was something really odd about it, and part of that might have been the N64 graphics on the GameCube made it look really unique, and without knowing it's obviously stylized, so they kind of get away with it. So the N64 graphics on the GameCube probably looked even more stylized because of what was actually just their kind of their datedness. I don't even think of it in those terms, but they were pretty basic graphics. But having not known it was an N64 game, it just looked really unusual. It was always a kind of an interesting looking game that I never played at the time, that I'd heard of. It was talked quite a lot about in the magazines I read at the time and things. And Animal Crossing on the N64. I don't know how rare it is. I wouldn't be surprised if it was pretty rare. So Japan only game, as I remember. It's those kind of games that make me think going far enough down this route would see me get non-PAL consoles to play other games that never came out here, and it's one of these things that people talk about a lot, learning another language. But learning Japanese for that reason alone would be, I could see myself getting something out of that. But obviously, the enormous amount of work it takes to learn a language properly is the barrier to that. I learned German and French in school and did well with it at the time, but have consistently failed to keep them up. Even though I took German at university as well, it didn't do me much good. I didn't do much good with that opportunity to keep working at it and keep learning it. Anyway, so Animal Crossing Wild World. Will I play it? God only knows.